Welcome to another episode of Kaffee und Kuchen with Internationals. This is your co-host Sanchi, and I'm very happy to welcome Roudy with us today. Roudy, how have you been?
Hello, good morning, or hello everyone. I've been doing very great. Glad that been part of this, let's say, podcast. I've been doing good. How are you?
I'm good too. I'm good too. I'm very happy to be talking to you after a very long time. Welcome to the podcast, Roudy. Would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Roudy Hanna. I originally come from Lebanon, and I moved to Germany to continue my studies in physics. So I moved after my bachelor's to start my master's here, and currently I'm doing my PhD. I'm living in Aachen, so kind of westmost part of Germany, near the borders. And yeah, it's been like interesting ride, I would say, but that's it basically.
Cool. So you said you moved here for a master's in physics, and then you're doing a PhD. If I
Yes.
may ask, what are you doing your PhD in?
Yeah. So I'm an experimentalist, a physicist. So I spend a lot of time in the lab, let's say, doing stuff and hopefully not breaking stuff. But mainly the topic is about the fabrication of a quantum computer hardware. So a bit combining the physics and some engineering and material science in order to have this like kind of, we call it the QPU, kind of a quantum processing unit, not just the CPU that nowadays exists in every electronic device and computers, but it's much, let's say, lower level than this because it's more fundamental science at the time and an engineering problem as
So you're
well.
working on the future.
Yes, in a nutshell, yes.
Yeah, that's great. So where did you move from, if I can ask you that?
Yeah. So I grew up in Beirut, in Lebanon, in the capital, so just outside in the suburb. Spent most of my life there. Even my university was just in a different part of the suburb as well. And that was back in 2019, so just before, let's say, all the word drama started.
Yeah.
Uh, and yeah, that's it. Like I was kind of my whole life in Lebanon and never been to Germany before. I've been to Europe, but yeah, it was quite a jump.
Wow, okay. But then how did you decide for Germany? Did you decide for Germany or did you just find something that you liked in Germany?
So there was like kind of two, let's say, thought processes that went into it. So in Lebanon, as probably you may know or may not know, is that we have a lot of French influence. So let's say my school and also a bit the culture is influenced by some French culture, which means that we learn also the language, and everything we learned was based on the French language, like more than Arabic, at least for the science part. And as soon as I realized that for one reason or the others, there's no possibilities to do a PhD in natural sciences in the universities in Lebanon, like purely, my options were like limited to the outside. And one typical road was to go to France, just like everyone, because it's a very easy option and a very valid one, actually, for a lot of reasons. You get a lot of support from universities. You get a simplified, let's say, process and everything. So there's a lot of advantages to it. And most of my friends are there, and I have some family like also there. But I just wanted to do something a bit different. I just didn't want to travel 4,000 or 4,000 kilometers and end up in the same place again, kind of. And I started a bit looking around the UK mostly, and then okay, it was too expensive for me and my family. And since I wanted to do physics, and actually at the time when I was like doing this, learning about, let's say, um, uh, like elementary physics or complementary physics, most of the people that I got exposed to were actually German from the physics point of view. So I was like,
True.
why not? I looked a bit into it and was like, yeah, that sounds interesting. There's a lot of research going on. It seems kind of quite a challenge, and
Yeah,
I would do a bit something different for me and set myself that goal a bit early on
yeah.
in my school. Like I wanted to do okay, physics, PhD, Germany, kind of, and just dedicated myself to it and never looked back, to be honest.
Wow. So you really took the road less traveled,
Oh
right?
yeah,
You wanted a
yeah.
challenge.
Yeah, exactly. I just did not want to do like it's gonna be anyway challenging and have some
Yeah.
problems and so on. It's like, yeah, might as well make it interesting, not
Yeah.
a little bit more. So yeah,
Yeah. Sounds fun. Have you been having fun?
except for the Corona part, absolutely.
Okay. No, that's good to hear. So, how's life as a PhD student in Germany? Because you had mentioned, like in
Hmm.
France, there were a lot of options to make it easier for your
Yeah.
transition, right, from Lebanon to France. But I don't know if something like that exists for Germany. So, how is it? Like, how's life as a PhD student?
So like, let's say, first of all, I think my initial plan was to come directly for the PhD abroad, whether it was France or wherever. And then I got kind of talking with some people, and it made me aware that maybe coming for the master is a bit easier, especially if I'm going to Germany, because we don't have direct contact like university to to German ones. So I think that was one of the, let's say, best decisions towards the PhD life here. That I came for my master's, which is much easier. And since then, I, of course, a bit got trained how the, let's say, the German way of thinking, or at least doing this science part, and I got like early on exposed, and this helped me greatly into transitioning into the PhD life. And I would say, because I have also lots of friends in France who directly went for their PhDs or actually did their masters there. So I had a couple, like both situations. And I would say it's been a bit comparable. However, I think the quality of life of a German PhD student, let's say, or a PhD student in Germany, is a little bit easier from the financial aspect. And the atmosphere, depending, of course, on your supervisor, that is very personal and case dependent. Uh, but I found that it is a bit more chill here than in France, especially with deadlines, frankly speaking. Because there, I understood that you have kind of you agree when you will finish, and it's a hard deadline because
Oh
there's a
wow.
lack of money. So it comes back to the financial aspect.
Yeah.
So you need to finish in this month, in that year, and there's no kind of discussion about it. Otherwise, there's no funding, and you can't do it. Whereas here, at least in my field, and I know this is not true for all the fields. So my field is because it's the next wave of technology, and there's a lot of money been pouring into it.
Yeah.
I had, let's say, I've been lucky enough to have a chance to be a bit more in a slightly more relaxed environment, in a sense that there is something that is always coming up, and there is a bit more relaxed feeling from that point of view. But I also know some other people who also, let's say, prolonged a bit their PhD by talking to their supervisors or found another position. And when they were writing their thesis, it got a bit more prolonged than the actual contract, and that was fine because here they do accept this in general, with or without the money. But there it was a bit different. So from that aspect, I think it's a little bit easier. The science itself, I think it's totally equal. I think it's just as challenging as there or here. But yeah, I think it has been good, and definitely here you have slightly more opportunities than elsewhere. I would say.
Okay. So that means it's probably it's a little bit more nurturing towards research that's kind of future oriented,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah, that's good to hear because I mean, especially science and research, we hear it from other parts of the world that when funding gets cut, it completely changes the whole
Yeah,
landscape, right?
definitely. And I think, let's say, because it's this wave of, let's say, next technology that I'm in, this helped a lot in my
Yeah,
experience. And I'm 100% sure that this has not been the experience for a lot of the people here.
yeah.
Maybe also some of the listeners and people who also maybe already joined the podcast. I'm well aware of this, but this has been my experience so far, and I'm super glad that I took this road in that sense because I was excited about the topic and I didn't know exactly what was how the financial aspect worked because I actually did not really I don't think I really understood what research actually means before I started doing research here.
Ooh.
Yeah, it was quite the learning curve for
Yeah,
me,
yeah,
especially coming from Lebanon where research is close to none. And if we
yeah,
had something going on, it was in collaboration with French universities. And I did not have the exposure to that because I didn't want to
yeah,
take
yeah.
that road. So I didn't really know what to expect. But after a couple of years experiencing this myself and listening to other people and hearing also let's say some troubles that other people went through, I said I think I started to get a bit of a general feeling,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
maybe to some extent it's a little bit the exception in the whole science field
Yeah.
because usually, yeah, funding is quite the topic of discussion. Whereas, luckily, in my field and where I'm working, we always get, especially around this time, November, like December. Hey guys, what do you want for Christmas for the lab? We need to spend like that amount of money, otherwise it will be cut from next year's budget. So please go ahead and buy stuff, even if you don't really need them. I was like,
Yeah, maybe you need them next year for the
exactly, like we
project, right?
plan and
Who
like, okay, we
knows?
can always
Yeah,
upgrade stuff, but it's not like necessarily we need them now. But these are upgrades, stuff that we plan for the future. Yeah, so this has been a bit the atmosphere since I joined, and I was like, okay, sure, why not?
yeah, yeah. That sounds
Yeah,
nice. I mean, I know that from other fields, from some of the other fields, it's really not like that.
yeah.
So I think that you chose a nice field to be
I
in.
mean, it was a conscious decision. It was a conscious like
Okay,
decision.
okay.
So when I came here, I actually one of the things that I was like looking for in Germany was just a master's in physics. I didn't want to
Yeah.
specify the masters because there were some which were already a bit more specific. But I wanted a general thing to know here exactly what is happening, what do I want, because I did not really had a huge preference. I was really excited about physics in general. And then it directly came down to two topics, and one of them is a bit more getting to an end, even experimentally. And I quickly talked to the professors here, to my advisors, and they quickly pointed this out. And I was like, okay, I'm also excited about that other topic, which is more like quantum
Yeah.
technology. And that was clear that it's the next big thing. And at least for the time being, this has been proven to be correct
Yeah.
and depends on our effort to make it
True.
more sustainable into the
Yeah.
future. But no, it was like, okay, if I'm excited about both equally, then why not go where at least a
Yeah.
direction where I can find a job
True.
like it's a bit more, let's say,
Yeah.
thinking about this. That was the differentiating factor to make the decision in the end. But the ground base was I was excited for both, and I cannot do both, so I had to choose one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well. So, what would you tell someone who's looking for a PhD? So, what would your advice be to them? How do you start? Where do you start if you want to do a PhD?
So I would say getting into the masters or getting some work experience here is definitely an eye opener to the working culture, to the, let's say, I mean, the culture as a whole, but also the study aspect of it, what is expected from you, also to see where you stand compared to others. I felt that in a lot of ways I was comfortable with the studies, but for example, I lacked a lot of knowledge in coding, which was, of course, something that I did learn in my bachelor's. But I felt here that everyone is like huge, like much more skillful in coding, and I needed to up my game in that direction. And that is something that if I landed here directly for my PhD, I would have struggled a little bit more. So at least I had a bit of time to realize this, work on it, and then, use it a bit later. And I would advise the same, because that's what I did in the end, is that look a little bit on the job market, especially if you're doing these hardcore sciences. Germany, I think, is in a very interesting, a bit weird position currently in terms of job opportunities for PhDs, where they are really promoting, let's say, and they are really in the need of a lot of, let's say, high academic people, but industry-wise, they're not really the attractive options because they just cost a lot. So that's something to take into account. Let's say if you are doing a PhD just, to increase your salary, I think that's a bit not the right move, because especially if you want to work here in Germany, because they would rather accept like a master's degree, and then you get, of course, promoted and work experience, and later on. So you reach that higher point, but slightly from a different road. But of course, if you enjoy the research aspect, the science, and so on, then definitely this is one way to go. And but you have to be aware of the industry situation if you also plan to not continue in academia, because that is definitely a problem, and I can see it already unfolding for other fields, and even my field, which there is, as we said, already lots of funding. I've been also, let's say, in contact with some companies and so on. It's not the easiest, even though this is an exciting field and lots of opportunities, but not all companies want to rely 100% on PhDs, and this is something to think about. So I would say, let's say, to summarize it in a sense that get a taste of Germany first in your field to know where you stand, and also depend on what are your next plans to also a bit the industry because, or even if you plan to stay in academia, I also mean industry. I'm including academia here because it's also not really an easy way into academia, especially as a foreigner, because it depends on your relationships with professors and so on, and you have to build this up. So it takes some time to do that. Yeah.
That's a lot of good advice. I hope it really helps people who are
Yeah.
listening in. I wanted to ask, because you mentioned the point, especially as foreigners, when we come, it might be a little bit more difficult to I don't know, network or things like that. And what are the factors that could affect? So apart from knowing the
Yeah.
language, let's say you know the language and everything, are there any kind of stereotypes or any kind of cliches that pose a barrier? Has that happened to you, or do you know if this is still happening in academia? What's your experience been?
So in my experience, there's a little bit of everything, I would say, because definitely they are trying to, let's say, advertise this diversity, that they want to accept all the people, but there's also the reality of it, that it's a little bit more limiting, and it's good that they are advertising it, but it's also how you apply it in the end. And the hardest part, let's say, even if you know the language, is to build up these connections, so they see a bit your work ethic and so on. But for some nationalities, I think the work ethic, let's say the personal work ethic, is a bit washed away depending on your background. There are some countries, let's say, who are on the blacklist, regardless of the person. And I have some good friends that are struggling, and they did finish their PhDs in physics as well, so very similar. But let's say even in academia or in industry, it's been a bit more challenging because they come from a certain place, and these are people who are willing to stay here. They wanted to be here, and it's a bit hard to understand why. But then you get a very honest, let's say, answer about why, and then it comes back to, let's say, a general feeling rather than the person, which is a bit hard to see, or hard to, like, say, to admit. At the same time, I have seen, let's say, the better of people, but maybe you have to go through this cycle
Yeah.
and maybe some bad experiences, and I can assure, let's say, everyone who's listening in and maybe feeling a little bit that there's some judgment, that there are a lot of good people who are actually, in a very good way, don't care about this. It's not that they don't care about you per se, but they just
Yeah.
want to see the results. And if you can bring the results,
Yeah.
they don't care about anything else. And they will care about you, they
Yeah.
will nurture you and everything. And that has been, fortunately, my experience, that I have not been judged, let's say, because like I come from an Arabic country, whether let's say because of course media and people's like prejudice exist, and
Yeah.
I'm not here to change that, to be honest. I'm not here to educate people about this. I'm here to just do my work. I'm here to enjoy my life as
Yeah.
much as possible, and get every opportunity that I or take every opportunity that I get. uh, but I've heard a lot of people having also negative experiences, even if they come from the same background. Some people also did not.
Yeah.
It really depends. It is a case specific, but I am I can say confidently that there are a lot of people here that will actually see all of this as a positive, even if they don't seem as like they care enough and they don't care about this background. But this is a huge positive for me, because yeah, I'm just here to work, and if you don't want me to work, then I would rather it be because I'm not good than because I come from that place.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the other side also exists, and we have to be aware of that. But you just have to
Yeah.
accept that this is not you, this is not your problem. You just have to make your way through it and make yourself stand out a little bit by showing what you
Yeah.
got.
Yeah.
And in the end, I think this already filters already quite a toxic environment already, because if they're gonna judge you for that, then
Yeah.
do you really want to work there?
Then you
And
don't
this
want
is
to be
not
there.
really the case, I would say, for most of the people tuning in now.
Yeah.
But it exists, unfortunately, in Germany, but also in everywhere in the world. I don't think this is a German specific rule or like experience.
Yeah.
Uh, and it's maybe a bit reassuring to know that these people definitely exist, and people make their way through. And but maybe they have to go through this a bit, like hearing some stuff which are
Yeah.
not very good to hear
Yeah.
or very logical to hear. But in the
Yeah.
end, I'm sure you will find something or someplace here where it is much
Yeah.
better. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, that's a very balanced take, and I really like it. That of course, there's always bad
yeah,
apples, and there's always people who will not be
yeah,
able to get over there, or maybe they will, but in your
yeah,
situation,
yeah,
they might not. Their prejudices, but that there are always also people
yeah.
who look beyond that, and they actually do nurture you as a human being and help you grow together with
Exactly.
them,
And I
right?
think it's good, let's say, for any foreigners to, of course, I would, let's say, embrace, let's say, any culture that you come from, but also understand that you are also in a new culture and you have to embrace that as well, and kind of marry these two together. But let's say be aware of everything that is around, and but also even if you hear, oh, there's this stigma or stereotype about that country or that culture, that does not have to necessarily apply to you. And because you know who you are, you know what you bring to the table, and you can make a difference. And you will have, you will eventually, hopefully, meet someone who will see that difference, and they wouldn't care about what the media says or what the general populace like think or whatever, because I think, and that's where you are already in a good place where you can grow and enjoy your life here. Otherwise, I don't think it will be a very enjoyable ride. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's true. That's I really like that take. I have to say, I had I don't know if you heard, I had another episode with John, and he worked as an integration officer for a while in Germany, and he mentioned the same thing, that you don't have to necessarily give
no,
up everything that you came with, or who you are, but it's important to realize
yeah,
that you're in a new place and you need to
yeah,
kind of find a way to make both things work together. And there are
yeah,
ways that you can find, it's not impossible.
Yeah,
You just have
exactly.
to
And I
live.
think this was also comes back to, let's say, this having a taste of the German culture or the working culture a little bit, because let's say personally, I of course I'm not in a, let's say, I didn't have the immunity. I had a German stereotype while I was growing in Lebanon, but I just did not really believe that everyone falls into that stereotype, because I also did not believe the stereotype that was applied to us, let's say, growing in Lebanon, because I can see that is simply not true. So I, let's say, believed in that and came here, but I was also, positively shocked by all the different aspects that I could find here, and I needed to find my way around all of those and to marry these two together. And yeah, and I think it's especially advantageous to actually keep both, because that's what you add to that. And I don't think Germany needs more numbers in that sense, just to have more people here, but you can bring a lot of different flavors, a lot of let's say new
Yeah.
aspects, new ways of doing things, or dealing with people, that maybe the
Yeah.
typical, let's say, way of doing it here is, of course, is fine, and that's how people like do it here. But that doesn't mean there's a rule that you have to follow. You can bring your own, adapt it
Yeah.
slightly to the culture here or to the people here, because yeah, you are in a new place and you have to acknowledge that. But you also come from another place, and you also have to
Yes. And you
acknowledge
also
that
have to.
as well. Otherwise, I think it's hard, especially like coming as an adult. Okay, I didn't come as a kid here. I cannot forget, let's say, 20 years of my life, because that's all I had. That's all I had in this life, and I cannot like ignore this completely. So yeah, I needed to find a place, and so far, I think I've been, again, fortunately, in a very good place to embrace this, and I was never really ashamed of any aspect of it. And if one person or two have had these people, let's say, around that do not really approve or not willing to listen, or they are willing to judge just by then good for them. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
better off without them, because there's a lot of other people who
Yeah.
are excited to hear what I have to say, or want to hear or want to ask some stuff. And this applies to German and non-German people that I've met here. This is
Yeah.
not necessarily to the German culture, because where I am, it's a very international place as well. So of course, the
Yeah.
German culture is the dominant one, or the common denominator, but there's also lots of other cultures that I have regular interaction with, and all of this is kind of into getting to know, oh, okay, I don't just have to deal with the German working culture. I now have to deal with, I don't know, a Brazilian culture, or like someone from Africa. And like, these are stuff that maybe does not come to your
Yeah.
mind when you think, oh, I want to go to Germany and
Yeah.
work in academia. And academia is a very international place. And then suddenly, like, of course, you both have to adapt into the working culture, but you have your differences. Now you have to interact with people from yet a different culture. There's like 3 or 4 culture clashes, in a sense, and it makes it quite an interesting approach, interesting challenge. Yeah, that I did not foresee. For
Yeah.
example, it's not like I knew this before. Yeah,
Well, I kind of see a trend with you. You tend to go into unknown things a
yeah,
lot
yeah,
from
yeah.
what we've spoken
Uh,
about so far. No, but I totally agree because I mean, it's not just about adapting, but I
oh
feel like
yeah,
you can also learn
definitely,
a lot from all
definitely.
these different cultures, right? It grows you as a person,
Yeah.
emotionally, professionally. I totally, at least for my part, I really enjoy it, and I think for your part, you
Definitely,
probably
and
do
I think
too.
I've learned, even for example, sayings or way of doing things or stories that I have never imagined, let's say, to learn that. But this has all been part of this experience, working here, growing here,
Yeah.
and just developing myself. And for that, I think maybe coming back to where we started with all of this is that, at least
Yeah.
personally, if I would have went to France, I think I would have been a bit more closer to my Lebanese corner than to that international experience. But I wanted to have a bit
Yeah.
of both. I have now a lot of Lebanese friends who are here,
Yeah.
and some of them I, let's say, got to know before, some of them I got to know here. So it's not like I'm erasing all of this, but it's not the main place that I am all the time. And that a bit helped me a little bit. And if I'm ever, let's say, homesick, I can go to France. It's not too far away, or I can go home exactly and experience the real thing. And that's the beauty of it. And I just wanted to have a little bit of everything, and not ignore one completely, or stay in one as well. So, and that was one of the, or at least my experience so far. Yeah.
Yeah, coming now, talking about being homesick, right? I know that at least from the news
Yeah.
that Lebanon has seen some tough times in the recent few months or years. And how did you deal with it? Because I'm not sure how bad it was during the pandemic, but right after that, it kind of got really,
Yeah.
really tough. And I mean, I know you. I have some other friends from the
I
region, and
know.
I felt
I
really
remember.
like
I
my heart
remember your private
was
messages,
breaking,
like,
you know.
thanks for this, just checking up on me and so on, and I do appreciate this.
Yeah, so I wanted to ask how did you get through it, right? I
Mm.
always ask this to people who've experienced conflict back home while being here, um, because I also feel that maybe this is
Oh
a
yeah.
question that a lot of people have, especially when they're far away from home, and you feel like, oh, what can I do? So,
Uh,
what was your
so I'm
approach?
gonna spoil the answer, but maybe tell you the full story later. Is that I had to go in the end through an action plan in order to know what I can do, and that was not an easy road there. But maybe a little bit more background is that I think I had one of, let's say, a very unique experience, let's say, with my attachment to Lebanon, in the sense that I came here willingly. I was not really, let's say, forced by any situation. It was my dream. It was my. I worked for this. I started learning even German before, so it was my plan all along. And throughout my whole life there, sure, the situation there was not all the time ideal, but nothing major was happening for a long time. And okay, economy is bad, less job opportunities, but that was it. Nothing really changed. And then I came here in 2019. It was around August, and already in October, so 2 3 months later, we had a revolution, like in Lebanon. Um, and the first time I came back to Lebanon on Christmas time, I felt already like a bit of a stranger there, because a lot of things had already changed, economically, politically, situation, and it was like, okay, what the hell happened here? Can't you guys like live a couple of months? I just left. Like, what the hell happened? Exactly. Like,
I leave and the
am
whole
I the
country
only
is in
stone that
shambles.
was holding all of this together? Like, what happened? That's how it felt. I was like, okay, but around that same time, like, COVID started to be on the newspapers, and yeah, quickly, okay, the situation developed, and I couldn't go again to Lebanon for more than a year, around like a year and a half, and that was already tough, definitely. And then what I had to do, or there, my reaction was like, all right. I mean, of course, here the situation of COVID was no different, but the most restricting thing that I couldn't go back to Lebanon. Of course, I had my family there, my friends were still there, so I was, of course, like worried about them. But in the end, I mean, we can video chat, we can text, take some measures. That was it was fine in that term, because I was checking up on my family a bit. I mean regularly. The more challenging part of this period was like, here I had only kind of a 6 month normal life, without knowing that it's going to be only 6 months. I had made a couple of friends, but we were all new, and some German friends, but we were just getting to know each other, getting a bit acquainted with the studies here, and having this fear of, okay, it's a new dynamic. I don't know a lot of people. I have to adapt. I need to study. I need to do all of this. So there was a lot of adaptation in these 6 months that is, let's say, I couldn't really make the most out of everything yet because it was still in the process. And then came this period where we were locked in our houses for a while. That was a bit challenging, a bit like feeling lonely here as well, and homesick at the same time. And then I was like, okay, I came to the realization like to accept this in the sense that I came here to study. That was the main goal. Of course, I wanted more, wanted to make friends, have a life here, enjoy, go out and see new places, see all of Europe. But essentially, I came here to study, and like, you know what, I might as well study. That's like maybe the nerd part in me. So I took up a bit more courses, so to keep myself busy and do all of this. And yeah, to be honest, it's a bit of a blurred memory now, probably because it was not the most fun period. But I was just like, that's all I could do in that situation, and that was my action plan. I wouldn't recommend it. I wouldn't say that's the best, but that's how I adapted into that situation. That's what I had. But of course, after Corona, a lot of stuff were also happening in Lebanon with the Beirut explosion, and I mean recently also the events in the Middle East as a whole, and these were definitely very challenging. And yeah, it hasn't been easy, and all I could do is just I was stressing myself definitely because I can't do a lot of things here, and I mean because of the situation here, it was also a bit difficult to let things out. Let's say to like in any situation. But I had a lot of close friends who were regularly like checking up on me and making sure I'm okay, and I do appreciate this a lot. But in the end, I had to have a bit of faith and to acknowledge this and to check up on my parents, have an action plan in case something happened. Like not just because I was also blocked at some point. Like okay, I don't know what to do. I will just be on the next plane. But yeah, okay, great. I'm there now. What do I do? It's still happening. It was like also not a very thinkful or really processed thinking. Um, it was definitely a challenge. I tended to okay at least threw myself a bit into work to keep myself just from checking on the phone every second. But I always had this in the back of my mind, always checking up on my parents and so on. But in the end, I was just I had to live with it. It was I don't know how to express it a bit better, but definitely it was a very unique experience, and I really don't wish that to anyone. And this has brought up a lot of feelings because I was like, okay, but I also know that if I was there, I would also react like my parents were reacting, and they were a bit more chill actually than I was here, because they knew what was happening the second it happened, where I was here waiting either for them to reply or to hear something on the news, and this period was like not fun, like this short time, this short delay. Um, but it was just about also surrounding myself with some friends, maybe sharing the experience with my other friends from Lebanon who also live abroad, getting some support, talking about it, and I personally did not try to engage in let's say political like discussion because I knew let's say also that is not going to help me. That's not going to change the situation. I would rather focus on what I can do and what I can at least maybe just express my feelings. Maybe go to. I went to visit my friends and my best friend in Paris. We were in the same boat together, like literally. Even our parents live like 5 minutes apart. So definitely, like if my parents feel something, his parents do as well. and we knew each other from school. So that was definitely the thing that helped me the most. Is just a bit surrounding myself with people who at least were tolerating me in that period. I wasn't the best, let's say, version of myself, but that was definitely a big challenge. Yeah.
I think that's some very helpful points, because what I took out of it is, one, keeping yourself
Yeah.
busy, of course, so your brain has other things to do as well. Getting support,
Yeah.
surrounding yourself with community, with people who matter, with people you trust, who
Yeah. Of
can
course.
support
Of
you and
course.
you can support them probably. And a little bit on the
Yeah.
practical side, which is having some kind of action plan, so
What could you do?
in your
And
own way,
the
what
action
could
plan
you
did not
do?
just revolve around me, it was
Right.
also discussing it with my family and so on. To at least, that's all I could do, and at least wanted to know that they can do something, or we talked about something. Yeah, it was definitely an experience there. Yeah, of course.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah,
I can imagine it must not be
yeah,
easy to share it, especially
definitely,
on the internet
definitely.
with a lot of people. So I really appreciate you sharing that. Just also looking at the time, and before we finish for today, if you could send out a message to the listeners, German or not, international or not, what would your
Uh,
message be?
I would say that Germany has a lot of things to offer, but you also have to take those things and embrace them as they are. You should not be expecting to change them in many ways, just because you are, let's say coming from a different culture. Because there's a lot of things you can learn, there's a lot of things you can grow into that you will like. Some of them you won't like, and same goes to the other, let's say, to the German people, to the German listeners, that there's a lot of things maybe we can bring as foreigners, and they also tend to, at least the people I'm surrounded with, not tend to change that, and rather also like embrace it in many ways. And this is when I know that these are the people I want to be surrounded with. So maybe in a nutshell, it's like to enjoy whatever is here, because it is different, and it can be a challenge to find what exactly you like, what you don't, how you adapt. But there's a lot of opportunities, and you can do it in many different ways. And it's about how you play around with these tools. And yeah, it's a bit generic maybe, or like
Yeah.
too wide, but I think it's very case dependent as well. Depends on your experience, but you have to embrace it. I think once you start embracing it here, and you're not coming here just to do one thing, but you're here for the full experience, I think this is when your perspective starts to change.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Start
yeah.
changing. Yeah. That's great. Thank you. Thank you, Rudy, for being here, for
I'm
sharing
happy
your
to do
experiences, for sharing your
that.
stories, for sharing your tips, and most importantly,
Oh,
for giving us a secret to, how do you call it? Wait, I'm finding the right
oh
word.
yeah,
The
a
secret to a
cultural
happy
marriage.
marriage.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly. To a happy cultural marriage. No, I
Yeah.
love that analogy.
I hope
It's
it can
pretty
at least
cool.
help someone out there, at least realize some stuff, or maybe confirm some doubts that people have, because definitely I didn't know what to expect here. So yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much. I wish you and the listeners a very good day, weekend, whatever you're having when you're
Thank
listening
you for
this,
having me. Bye.
and see you for the next episode.